Welcome back to the Kayak Shack, and today I'm going to do a quick walkthrough. I've got a customer that orders stove covers for me. They sell homes, and as they sell homes, they do a custom piece for their customers. And it's been a busy week this week. I've actually gotten 5 stove covers on order that I've got to finish in the next couple of weeks. So right now I'm in the middle of my assembly line, and I was just going to kind of walk you through and show you the different phases and how I go about making these. They're not really that hard to make, and especially if you got the right kind of wood, it's kind of simple, but you got to have there's a few tools that you're going to need to have. All right, once you get the wood cut, these are made out of Chinese fir, is what it's called. It's a really lightweight wood. I found it to be very versatile, and it does a pretty good job on making the things that I make. And so I've been using it a lot. It has a unique smell to it, almost like some type of a commercial cleaner, but it's pretty easy to work with, and it's lightweight. So as you can see right here, I've got two more cut out and ready to go. Originally these boards were 1x9s that I cut on the mill, and I cut them wide like that. That way I can shape them and get everything exact once I get them into the shop. All right guys, I kind of messed you out on some of the work. Of course, the milling has already been done, and when I mill these things, I try to get as wide a board as I can. These are wound up being like a 3/4 inch by 9 inches, and I plane those down. I get them smooth. I get them to where I want them. If you start out with a 1-inch board, that gives you plenty of area to plane down and decide which face side you want, and plane those into shape. And then once I get them planed down, I take, and depending on what kind of stove cover I'm building, I'll do a little bit of math and try to determine how wide my boards need to be. These stove covers can range from 30 inches down to 20 inches. This particular stove that I'm making these for is 22.5 inches from the front to the back. That's what I've been told by the customer. That's the size they sent me. That's what they're going to get. So the way I make that work out is I want to do a 3-board, and the way I make them is I have 3 boards this way. Boards are joined and bonded together, and then I run 2 slats down the side here, and each side gets a strip of wood to kind of hold everything together and make sure it doesn't try to twist or turn, and that's where the handles get mounted. So it's a pretty simple design. But the way that I determine how wide to make these boards is I simply take the overall height, which is in this case is 22.5, and divide that by 3. And then I set my table saw and I cut these boards at 7.5 inches. And when you join them together and put them together, you come up with 22.5 inches overall. The length, what I like to do on the length is I oversize the width. And I'll make this thing about 1/2 inch on each side, with a total of 1 inch longer than what my end product is. And that gives me the ability to, once I put my side runners on there, I make them a little wide too. And once I get them put on, I take the saw and I cut through both the side runner boards and the base boards at the same time to get that smooth finish to where they both kind of look like they're made together, and they'll try to hide the joints and get away with those. So that's the basic principle. The one thing I will add is when you're putting these things together, you're going to have to either tongue and groove them or use biscuits. I use biscuits, and I have a biscuit joiner that I stick in. I cut the holes, and then you put the biscuits in, put the glue in, and then they have to sit overnight in clamps like this for the glue to dry. Once that glue dries, I take them out of the clamps, put them on the table, sand everything down, get it sanded nice and smooth, and then it's over to the laser engraver. Once I do the laser engraving, or once I get this to this size and get it smooth, I'll go do the laser engraving. And after I do the laser engraving, it comes back to the sand table for a few minutes. I'll run over it with some really smooth sandpaper just to touch it up and make sure there's no smoke damage or anything to the surface of the wood. And then once I do that, I put the side strips on, and then off to the finish. It'll get some stain, some polyurethane, and then I gotta let it set overnight again. And then once this thing sets and dries, I come back, I put the handles on it, and we're done. So I'm gonna kind of update you from time to time. I'm not gonna leave the camera running because this is quite an extensive job, but just for those that may be thinking about doing this kind of stuff, it's not that intimidating. You do have to have the right tools. You have to have the joiner, the biscuit joiner. You're gonna need a planer. I mean, there's a lot of tools involved, but if you have those tools, it's not all that hard. This is actually, and I know it's kind of hard to tell because I've got it glued up and I've got it sanded, but that's actually 3 boards that are glued in the end. So this is gonna be a cool stove cover here shortly. I just got through with my rough sanding with 80 grit, and I'm fixing to go back over it with like some 220, and then it'll be ready to be engraved. And I'll check back with you once I get this one engraved and kind of give you a little update on what it looks like. Hey guys, it's been a few hours, but I just want to update everybody. I have got quite a few stove covers started. I've had a bit of an assembly line, had a buddy come over today and lend me a hand, and so I've made some pretty good progress on these 5 covers. This is the last one that we've gotten to the engraving, and I went ahead and stained it. And the next phase, it'll kind of be like the one I've got here. That one has been stained, and I've added the side runners to it. I'm just waiting on the glue to dry on those side boards right there. Once that glue dries, I'll hit it with a little bit of sandpaper and stain it, and then add the handles, and it'll be done. I'm probably going to put a thin coat of poly on all of them before I actually install the handles, but I'm going to go ahead and get the hardware drilled and get everything ready for the handles at least. But this one, like I said, this one just come off the laser. I'll try to get it a little closer so you can see what we got going here. And that is that's the burn. And all of these are ordered by the same customer. They basically just send me different names for the boards, and I just changed the name. The first one we had a little bit different graphic, but now I've gotten to this. So that is, all of these are made of the same wood. This one's a little different stain. We're trying to mix it up and just figure out what stain works best, what stain looks the best. I've got this one here. Got this one going. Like I said, I've got the side runner handles on this one, but I'm still waiting on that glue to dry before I mess with it a whole lot. Then we'll sand it down and get to the next phase. Each one of these things is made out of 3 individual boards. And in the beginning, when those 3 individual boards are put together, I have to clamp them off. And these things are 22.5 inches from front to back. And so I've got 3 7.5 inch boards, and I put joint and biscuits in there and glue everything together. This is what they look like before I do any engraving or stain them or anything like that. They're 30.5 inches wide and 22.5 inches tall. Yes, 22.5. I think I may have said 20.5, but that's what we're at right now, guys. I've got every clamp I own tied up, waiting on these things to dry. And once the glue gets dry, those 2 or those 3 guys there will go to the engraved phase. And then once they get engraved, they get stained. Then once I get them stained, I put the top runners on, glue, screw that on, and then I have to let that dry. One thing I will add is this guy here. You may notice that this wood is slightly different. This is magnolia. This is my first time building with the magnolia, so we're gonna see how that turns out. Make sure I don't have to do a redo on it. But that's what this weekend has held for me. 5 stove covers, each with this particular graphic engraved in them. The only difference is gonna be the name. So, been a busy week. All right, guys, this is what the final product looks like, and I'm not gonna bore you with the particulars. Like I said, if enough people are interested in the exact process that goes into these things, you can feel free to message me, and I'll try to do a more in-depth video. I was just gonna kind of do a flyover of the kind of stuff that I do around here. But just to go back on what I had said before, this is actually 3 individual boards that are 7.5 inches wide. I used biscuits like these little guys, and this is not normally the packaging that I have, but I ran out today, and the only, like I said, I'm limited on hardware stores, and the only thing that my local hardware store were these guys. These are a little bit bigger than what I normally use. These are number 20s. I normally would use the 10s, but in a pinch, I used what I had. And then all of this is glued together, of course, with glue, wood glue. And you're gonna need a lot of clamps to be able to pull this off, because you've gotta have the 36-inch clamps or 24, at least 24-inch clamps to be able to clamp this thing together. But this is pretty much, this is how it's gonna look going out the door. And like I said, I got 4 more that are gonna be almost identical to this, just different color. Maybe different handles for the different colors. But this is a regular customer that I have, and this is actually my first month working with them, and they ordered 5 stove covers in the first 2 weeks. So we'll see how this is gonna go. But thanks for stopping by, and some of the tools and equipment that you'll need to do this, I'll drop a description in the link, a link in the description. So if you want to pick up some of those and try your hand at making one of these, and like I said, I can do a little more detailed video if I need to. But thanks for stopping by. Have a good day.